Welcome. This is a portion of a 2 hour conversation that took place in June of 2019 after the NRA national meetings. A conversation about NRA with Mac from Military Arms Channel, Jeff Knox from Firearms Coalition, Rob Pincus from ICE and 2AO, Shawn from We Like Shooting, and Jared from Guns and Gadgets. Together, we talked about the current state of the NRA, where it's going, and what we can do. Links to each of the participants and the full 2 hour conversation are available below. We've talked a bit about the structure of it and the number of employees and stuff. The way that's, I think Jeff was describing it earlier, it almost sounded to me like some of these, you watch a YouTube video on how to make $1 million, and it's going to tell you how to outsource everything and live in a vacation home while you just make a few phone calls. Are the people that are running the NRA phoning it in? Are they just like Shawn just kind of said there, like they kind of evolved into this, and now it's the routine, and it's super corrupt when we look at it from the outside, but to them it's sort of this, warm water got hot, and now they're just, the routine. They hire a marketing agency, they everybody's happy, and then they go on these vacations, and now they're kind of with like the surprised look, like, oh, is something wrong? Or are these people like literally unscrupulous? This is their scam. Their job is to keep us duped. When they have these interactions with the marketing companies, it's like, by all means, don't bring this up. Like, this is something that we know is a loose hair or something we don't want to talk about. Like, are they intentionally doing this? Like, every day they wake up and figure out new ways to screw us? Or is this just an accumulation of a bunch of apathy and neglect, and it's turned evil?
Yeah, I mean, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I think there's a lot of that going on here.
It's also part of, like, once you get into the inner circle, you realize the real money and how it's being made. That's the true test of a person and their integrity. Are they going to do what's right, or they're just going to go with the flow and make themselves rich in the process?
Right, and I don't question the motives, the initial motives, or Wayne works hard. He works hard to this day. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that he is engaged and trying to do the business of the NRA, but he has come to believe he's Caesar. He has come to believe that he is the NRA, and that if it's good for him, it's good for the NRA. And I do believe that a lot of the outside consultants and contractors are strictly in it for the money. But it's not just money, it's the power, the influence, the prestige. And I think that a lot of them have been, a lot of folks like Wayne have been suckered into that power, prestige, and money. And I think that he believes that he's the hero. I think that he believes that he's doing what's right, because what's good for Wayne is what's good for the NRA. He's believed his own press releases at this point.
Yeah, if you ever meet the man, and I have, I mean, he seems very genuine. He seems like he truly cares about the Second Amendment. I mean, he'll talk about, preserving our rights and all this other stuff. I mean, he walks the walk and talks the talk. I mean, when I met him, keep in mind, this is a man I despised since 1986, and his hand in the Hughes Amendment and getting President Reagan to sign all that, and promising to fight it in the courts and never lifting a finger. I've hated him since that day. And I followed the NRA and then started to look behind what they were doing. And so I've always had an adversarial relationship with them. And so the day I met him and shook his hand, it was weird, because you want to like the guy, but you know how corrupt he is because you followed his actions for so many years. And it's just weird. People said that about Bill Clinton. I never met him, but people that absolutely hated him could walk into a dinner and have dinner with him and have a one-to-one conversation. And even though they hated his guts politically, they would wind up liking the guy. And I would say that Wayne has that capability as well.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I think that he has surrounded himself with people that have made some big, huge mistakes. And I think ultimately it becomes time for a leader to fall on the sword and take responsibility for the decisions they've made, even if they didn't make them personally. If the people below them that they put into power, that they gave decision-making ability, sometimes they just have to go. Whether he's a good guy, whether he's a likable guy, it doesn't matter. The NRA is in trouble, and it is time for someone to step up and take responsibility for that and get the next generation there.
dude, I kind of like that tact, because you could be super FUD or super NRA, right, and still understand the honor in the guy who's in charge taking it, because it's his job. I think that's a great tact. Like, hey, if you're seriously NRA, then ask Wayne to step on the sword or fall on the sword. Rob, you wanted to say something.
Well, I just, I kind of went in a different direction there, as far as having been, essentially friends with Wayne and some of the other leadership going back into the 90s, and traveling around in some of the circles, shaking hands, hanging out, having a beverage at different events, and especially a lot of the charity events and stuff, and sportsmen's, the Congressional Sportsmen's Congress, some of these other events and things that went on through the industry when I first came into the industry in the 90s and early 2000s. I don't know that I ever really liked the guy personally. I think, honestly, we're talking a little bit too much about the guy, because the reality is, I feel in some ways he was sort of the figurehead in front of the whole Ackerman McQueen, tail wagging the dog that has been going on in a lot of ways. While he's been the figurehead in the face of a lot of this, and certainly, I mean, even the speech he gave as recently as the members meeting, where some of us stood up and said, time out, no, let's not adjourn, let's actually have a conversation. The speech was a great speech, right? He gives a great speech. He does present well in that pep rally venue that the members meetings really become and supposed to be, until some people stand up and say, wait, we want to actually say something. And my disillusionment with the NRA really came from working with them over a number of years. I mean, at the end of the day, while it's not considered a donation, but the millions of dollars that they made distributing the DVD series that I did with them starting in 2006, and we distributed over 4 million DVDs through the NRA alone over the course of a decade. And it was towards the end of that decade that I really came to see just how manipulated the system was by the people that were in leadership there. We had a great relationship with them for a long time. And as I started to see, even to the point where it benefited me in some ways, to have the membership silo and the merchandising licensing silo tell the training division, no, don't worry about these training DVDs. They have nothing to do with the NRA curriculum. We're doing that with this outside guy. And just the fact that they didn't get a vote. Now I look back and I see kind of the wrongness of that. Here's something going out with the NRA brand, and they're supposed to be the guys in charge of training. And then essentially that went all the way to the point where Ackerman McQueen installed their guys over the last few years and basically displaced the entire history and tradition of the training and education division for decades, with, the Powell obviously coming in. We know about all the corruption with Josh Powell. Like I said, this is way bigger than just Wayne LaPierre. He has become the figurehead. I think the danger is he falls on the sword, he resigns, and he goes away, and yet the status quo and the system and the strategies don't change and don't evolve. That's my biggest concern. Remember,
absolutely. As I've said, the whole management team needs to go. They're inept to their very core all throughout the management structure. The organization is completely broken, and that's evident just in their actions. They can't even answer basic financial questions, and they won't move their charter out of New York, and so many other stupid things that would be so simple for a true manager to do. They're just not doing it. They're just soaking up paychecks. They're probably working from home, and they're probably not even working. They're probably out just screwing off and getting paid.
See, that's just it. I mean, you work hard. A lot of these guys do work hard, and that's, like other people have said, and like Jeff has said, I mean, these guys are working, some of them are working 60-hour, 80-hour weeks, and they are the travel schedule, the appearance schedule, the meeting schedule. It's all, I think there are sincere people in there. The problem is the sincerity has now shifted from the cause of Second Amendment rights and gun rights to the cause of keeping the NRA safe and keeping the NRA running, as if those are the same things. So at the end of the day, I think we benefit from a strong and vibrant NRA that's been rebooted, but it has to be rebooted like Wounded Warrior Project was rebooted.
This is a portion of a 2-hour conversation that took place in June of 2019 after the NRA national meetings. A conversation about NRA with Mac from Military Arms Channel, Jeff Knox from Firearms Coalition, Rob Pincus from I.C.E. and 2AO, Shawn from We Like Shooting, and Jared from Guns and Gadgets. Together, we talked about the current state of the NRA, where it's going, and what we can do. Links to each of the participants and the full 2-hour conversation are available below.